What's going on, you guys? So today I'm coming to you with a Keyforge deck analysis. This is where I'm going to be breaking down a deck and looking at all of the cards within it and talking about some of the combos and the synergies and what makes this deck work. If you're not familiar with Keyforge, I invite you to check out some of my other videos talking about Keyforge, what it is, and how to play. I will have links to those at the end of the video. And if you're new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. I cover things ranging from Keyforge to Star Wars X-Wing, Star Wars Armada, board games, tabletop games, the latest Star Wars and gaming news, as well as sometimes Kickstarter content as well. A lot of various things like that. But Keyforge looks to be like one of those games that I'm very interested in, so I probably will continue to cover. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Emperor of the Fallen Other. Now this is a unique deck. You'll never see this deck again, at least not exactly, but you may see these cards again, and you may see some similar combinations. So we're going to take a look at every single card that's in this deck. Now this is one of my two decks from Gen Con, so there's not a whole lot of decks out there right now. You may see something you've never seen before. Let's take a look. So what we've got here is we've got a breakdown. I have the actual card here that has an entire deck list, as well as a QR code on the back, and on the front it lists off the factions and the name with Shadows, Sanctum, and Untamed. And I've broken them down into artifacts in this pile, actions in this pile, and creatures in this pile. And there is a fourth type called upgrades, but upgrades are pretty rare. As a matter of fact, I only have one, and I put that in the fourth pile. So I've kind of broken everything down. And we're going to take a look at the Sanctum cards first. Alright, so first we're going to look at creatures from Sanctum. I've got Sergeant Zachiel here. Now, Sergeant Zachiel is 4 health and 1 armor. So a lot of the Sanctum creatures seem to have armor. They seem to be very defensive in nature, as far as the theme seems to be protection as well as defense, and but they're not limited completely to that, but they remind me very much of kind of like White Magic in Magic the Gathering. He does have 1 armor, which means the first damage is going to be absorbed, and he's got an interesting ability. It says, play, you may ready and fight with a neighboring creature, which gives him all kinds of different options. If you play him, you don't want to play him on the first turn because you can't have any other creatures out if he's your 1 card you play. So he's a really good second turn play, especially if you have 2 creatures, and you would need 2 creatures from Sanctum. You can play one of those other ones and then play him immediately thereafter. Now we've also got Sequus here. He's got 4 power and 2 armor. And he's got the ability says reap, and you can capture 1. Capture is different than steal. Again, that's like a Shadows theme is steal. So he's going to capture 1, and he's got a little bit kind of defended with the 2 armor. 2 armor is actually pretty high. We've got Champion Anafiel. Oh, he's also got 1 armor, but he's got power of 6, a very strong creature, and he's got taunt. Again, goes into the protective nature. This creature's neighbors cannot be attacked unless they have taunt. So you put him next to somebody that you want to protect. Now you don't want to really put him next to other Sanctum creatures. You probably want to put him next to the squishier creatures of the other factions. And then you've got Duma the Martyr. When she is destroyed, you can fully heal each other friendly creature and draw 2 cards. Now, she's the only one that doesn't have armor, but she's meant to go out there and die, which makes her seem like the most likely one to combo with Sergeant Zachiel. Since you could play him, and if you're playing him, you're probably only going to fight with another Sanctum creature, because you would have to have declared Sanctum. The other ones aren't necessarily they can fight and they can do their jobs, but this one could potentially have a combo. If you have lots of other creatures out that all have damage, maybe you play Duma first, she comes in exhausted, then you play Sergeant Zachiel, he comes in exhausted, readies Duma, she fights, heals all of your other creatures after she gets killed, and now all of a sudden you've healed everybody else, and maybe taken out one of their creatures at the same time. So that gives us a total of only 4 creatures. This deck is a little bit lighter on creatures, I feel. And as a result, maybe this deck has lost more often than it has won. So that might be one of its weaknesses, is the lack of creatures. We have a lot more actions here. We've got 5 actions. First one is Virtuous Works. Now, Virtuous Works does nothing at all, but it gives you 3 amber. So that's huge. This is a really strong first turn play, because this forces your opponent on the defensive. You're about to forge a key already, and you're forcing them to try to steal something from you. So that's pretty nice. Next action is called Mighty Lance. This one is very strong. This is one of the few damage and offensive things that this faction can do. And this is going to deal 3 damage to a creature and 3 damage to a neighbor of that creature. 3 damage is pretty strong, so it's just because they're protective and shieldy and nice doesn't mean they can't get mad and hit you once in a while. The harder they come. Purge a creature with power 5 or higher. This completely removes them from the game, and yes, you know, those stronger creatures can be pretty hard to remove. So, like kind of like a Swords to Plowshares in Magic. And then we've got Terms of Redress. That's another action. When you play that, you can choose a friendly creature to capture 2 amber, and we have 2 copies of that card. You can get duplicates in a deck. All right. Now that one, you know, in the capture cards, this also gives you an amber too. They don't have a whole lot of cards that actually give you amber when you play them. So this one's just a nice all-around card. It's not super strong because when you capture, they can get that back after they kill that creature, but you're getting an amber in the process, so it's a good way to stall. Now we do have a couple of artifacts. We have artifacts are pretty rare, but we have 3 in this deck, which is nice. So we have Whispering Reliquary. We have 2 of those, and that one, as an action, it can return an artifact to its owner's hand, which is very, very annoying when your opponent's trying to play an artifact and you keep bouncing it back to his hand. Because they're both artifacts, you can even work this out as a combo where you tap one, you know, to return somebody else's artifact to their hand, and you tap this to return your own artifact to his hand, and then play it again, because if you've activated Sanctum, you can still play a card that you've bounced. Or if you wanted to have each one return itself to your hand, and then play them both again, because there is a card in the game that will give you an amber every time you play an artifact, so you could actually have a really nice combo by bouncing them to your hand and then immediately replaying them. Of course, they're going to come into play exhausted, so it's not an infinite combo. But if there were an artifact that would say, you know, artifacts come into play, you know, readied, you could have an infinite combo, which you'd have to stop after 6. And next is a really nice card that's in this deck. It's called the Potion of Invulnerability. Now this is first off, it's going to give you an amber when you play it, which is always a good thing. But the second thing is it's got an Omni ability. Omni abilities are pretty rare from what I've seen so far, and that Omni ability can be used at any time, even if you have not yet declared that house. So even if you've declared a different house, you can still use Omni. And the idea of this one is you can sacrifice the Potion of Invulnerability. For the remainder of the turn, each friendly creature cannot be dealt damage. So this one is really, really nice to just stop your guys from getting hurt. Again, feeding into the theme of protection and guardian. Alright, so now we are looking at Shadows. Shadows has a much different theme, and Shadows is actually almost like the exact opposite. Shadows is all about thievery and stealing from your opponent. It seems to be the main theme here. And so Dusk Runner is an upgrade. This is the only upgrade I have. But this upgrade says that when the creature gains a reap ability to steal an amber. Now every creature can reap, but when you have this, when you reap, you also are able to trigger your reap abilities, so you can steal one. Which is awfully nice, especially if you put it on a creature that already has the ability to reap and steal one. Now they can steal another one. Alright. Next we have creatures. Again, this is a light deck on creatures. We only have 3 Shadows creatures, which is really unfortunate because the Shadows creatures are so nasty. So we have the Carlo Phantom, and he's only got a power of 1, but he's elusive and skirmish. Elusive means the first time he's attacked, each round he doesn't take any damage. And then skirmish, when I use him to fight, he doesn't take any damage. So whether he's hard to kill, you have to attack him a couple of times to actually try to get some damage to him, or use a spell. But he is going to combo into the Sanctum artifact cards in there, and that each time you play an artifact, you can steal 1 amber. So this is a really nice combination, but because they're in different houses, it takes a little bit of time to set it up. Okay, now we have the Moon Cursor. Now Moon Cursor is also only a damage 1. She's got skirmish and poison, so she can be attacked, but if she deals damage to you with poison, she's going to kill you automatically. And then her fight ability is she can steal 1 amber. Now, again, you have to survive to trigger your fight condition, but since she's got skirmish, if she attacks, she's not going to take any damage in return, so she's going to just go in there and wipe people out. So the big weakness, it seems like, for these guys is those damage spells. Like, oh, deal 3 damage to somebody and their neighbor or whatever. That really, really hurts Shadows creatures. Next we've got Dodger. Now Dodger is one of the exceptions. Dodger is actually a strong Shadows creature, different than most. Dodger's a power of 5. But Dodger isn't going to last that long because Dodger has the fight ability to steal 1 amber. Again, it's all about stealing. These guys are all about stealing. However, he's doing it differently. He doesn't just get it for, staying untouched. He actually has to take damage to do it. But at strength 5 or at power 5, he can probably attack a couple of times and survive. Now we've got some actions. So first off, we have bait and switch. If your opponent has more amber than you, steal 1 amber. Repeat this card's effect if your opponent still has more amber than you. This is an incredibly strong card depending on the situation. If it's second turn, and your opponent's got 4 and you've got 3, well, it's not going to do a whole lot. But if your opponent has just tapped and you forged a key, like this is really good at the beginning of a key. Like if you forge a key right before your opponent does, and then you play bait and switch. Well, now I have no amber. Like, let's say I had 6, and you have 6 also, and you tap. I start my turn, forge a key. I'm down to 0. Now I'll play bait and switch, and I'm going to steal 3 amber from you. That's really strong. Next up is Oubliette. Oubliette is just a strong card and a little bit out of the theme. It's just purge a creature with power 3 or lower. So you're just purging as, again, removing them from the game entirely. Now we have too much to protect, and this is going to give us an amber. Again, we don't have a whole lot of cards that give us amber, but it's nice to have some cards that give us amber when we play them. Steal all but 6 of your opponent's amber. This is nice when you've played something to maybe stop them from forging a key on a turn and they have a lot of excess. And then it's also nice if they just happen to have had a real power turn and they end up with a ton of stuff. And it's nice because also this is a Shadows card, so you get them down to 6, and then you reap with your other creatures, or you fight with your other creatures that can steal as well, because you want to bring them under 6 if you can, usually. Miasma is another one that gives us amber, and when you play it, like I just said, your opponent skips their forge a key step on their next turn. Like it's one of those ways to stop somebody. If all you have is this, you can combo it with that. I'm like, okay, I'll steal. As a matter of fact, I might just say you skip your forge a key step, and I'll pass, and I'll hold on to this one for the next turn, and then maybe you'll have 12. So I'm like, I don't mind letting you forge a key because I'm gonna get a lot. Now we have Poison Wave. Poison Wave is one of the most powerful cards in the game. I find it to be, and we actually have 2 of these in this deck, which is great. And it gives you an amber, and when you play it, it deals 2 damage to each creature. Now this does hurt your own creatures, which is really, really bad for Shadows, so you have to be very careful when you use this. One of the things I have done when I've played this game is when I'm going to declare a Shadows turn, I'll play this before I play my creatures. So I'll play this first, hopefully I do damage or kill a lot of your creatures, and then I'll go ahead and play my creatures afterwards. And there's 2 of those in here, and it gives you an amber too, so it's nice. Or if I have the Potion of Invulnerability, because it's Omni, I can trigger this first and then play Poison Wave. My creatures actually won't take damage from it. So that's some of the synergy and things that I'm looking for. The more I play this game, there's cards that I want to hold on to until I can get a combo going. Alright, so also for Shadows we have another Amber card, Relentless Whispers. This one is an action that says when I play it I can deal 2 damage to a creature. If the damage destroys that creature, steal 1. So this one's direct damage just to a single creature. If it's enough to kill them, I get to steal 1, keeping it in line with the theme. Now we've got one other card, we have one artifact for Shadows, and this one is incredibly awesome. The Speed Sigil. First off, it gives you an amber when you play it, and it says the first creature played each turn enters play ready. This is huge because this also benefits your opponent. So this is one of those artifacts that your opponent's usually very happy to see you play. However, you have to be very careful about when you play this because your opponent's going to be able to take advantage of it as well. But what I like about it is this: if I've declared Shadows and I can play this, I can play a shadow creature. And the idea is I might play a creature that maybe I have the artifact stealer guy. Well, in his case, I would play him first. He would come into play tapped, and then I would play the artifact just so I can steal. But maybe I wanted to put my Moon Cursor down after I play the Speed Sigil. So I'd have to play the Speed Sigil first, no other creatures, then I put my Moon Cursor down. She enters play ready because she's the first creature I played, and then she can go and fight. She's got Skirmish, and she'll kill somebody, and then she'll steal 1 also. So that's one of the ways that you can potentially bring somebody down from 6 if they have checked on you. And that is all of my Shadows cards. Now we're going to be looking at Untamed. So Untamed is all about nature and growth. They seem like they're very much like the green mana kind of color from Magic the Gathering. If you were going to do a comparison that way, they're less about hurting your opponents and more about just helping you. So the Dew Fairy. We actually have 3 Dew Fairies in this deck. So this is our most common creature in this deck. The Dew Fairy is going to cost, or not cost, there's no costs, but it's got 2 power. So can kind of die pretty easily. We've seen a lot of things that do 2 damage or more, in some cases to all creatures. So Dew Fairies don't tend to live very long, because there's so many things that can just kill creatures, especially with one that only has power of 2. But she's less likely to die from being attacked. And the cool thing is, if you look at this art, it's actually a robot fairy. So these are like mechanical, like cyber nature hybrids, which is kind of cool. So the theme here is actually very, very clever. All right, but they're elusive, so if they're attacked, they're not going to take any damage, at least the first time they're attacked. And then when they reap, you gain an extra amber. Again, you're not stealing, so they're in tune with nature. When you reap with them, you're going to gain an extra one. So these are ones that you want to definitely have out, and so you can reap with them. But that means you have to keep doing Untamed over and over again, because you'll want, if you get all 3 out, you'll definitely want to make sure you continue to do Untamed, even if you have no cards to play. Next, we have the Fuzzy Gruen. I know that here's a stronger creature, 5 power. Again, none of these creatures I don't think have armor, but when you play him, your opponent gains an amber. However, you're gaining 2 amber, so that's okay. And this can also combo into other cards, like steal all but 6 of your opponent's amber. If you're getting ready to shut them down anyway, well, let's go ahead and, but again, those are from different things. You want to kind of make sure you're very careful about when you play a card like this. Generally, it's great because it gives you 1 more than your opponent does, but you don't want to push them back up to having beyond enough to forge a key. You don't want to do that. All right, well, we've got Telega. Telega is a power of 3. Each time your opponent plays a creature, gain an amber. This is a really good first turn play. If you have this in your hand and your first player, I would suggest playing this one first. It's got 3 power, so it's less likely to die right away. And that much is really good, but it's also gonna it's gonna gain you a lot of amber, because your opponent's gonna be playing creatures, and it's nice. And it seems like it's likely to draw at least 2 cards for your opponent to try to get rid of it, which is also nice. And then the Halakhor. Each friendly flank creature gains skirmish. Now, flank creatures are the creatures that are on the outside. So this one is a little bit out of character, in that he's more of a support character. But he's telling the creatures on the end, when I attack with them, they're not going to take damage. So for the combo here is that I don't want to use this if I've got, or I don't want to have my my shadow creatures that already have skirmish on the outside, because then they're not gaining anything from it. Now, those are my creatures. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures in that from the Untamed faction. Now we're going to go to actions. And we've got Mimicry. Mimicry is a really cool action. When you play this card, treat it as a copy of an action card in your opponent's discard pile. Now, this does a couple of different things. For one, it allows you to play that really powerful card that your opponent just played and turn their deck against them. But the other thing is, it's letting you potentially play a card that's out of your house. If your opponent is playing, Sanctum or Shadows or Mars or one of the other factions, you can play that and then get access to a card that you wouldn't have had access to. If they're playing 3 different factions that you don't have access to one of any 3 different factions that they've already played. So this is a really good mid or late term card, late game card. All right, Nocturnal Maneuver, another action. Now you're going to see a lot more amber on the Untamed cards than the other factions, because again, the Untamed is all about growth. When you play this card, you can exhaust up to 3 creatures. So which is nice, especially from your opponent's standpoint. You're playing this on your turn, you're going to exhaust their creatures. The creatures don't unexhaust until the end of your opponent's turn, so that makes 3 unavailable for them to use actions, or reap, or attack, or for their next turn, which is very, very useful. And it's up to 3, and you're also gaining an amber. We have 2 of those in this deck, which is nice. Next we have Lost in the Woods. Again, it's another amber card. Choose 2 friendly creatures and 2 enemy creatures. Shuffle each chosen creature into its owner's deck. This is I don't like this card as much, because it doesn't say up to 2 and up to 2. You have to have 2 friendly creatures, at least 2. and your opponent has to have 2 enemy creatures out. Only then can you use it. Additionally, you do gain an amber from it, but you're shuffling your own, you're getting rid of your own stuff too. It's great if you've got really good come into play abilities, but there's not that many cards in this deck that really synergize with this card. So this is one of those cards that I'll consider discarding rather than playing. It is useful if there's a card that's just really hard for you to deal with, that you can force it to go back to back into its owner's deck, but still you're having to get rid of 2 of your own things at the same time, so there's a big cost associated with playing this card. Now you can do it in a certain order. If I've got a bunch of my creatures out, I can have them reap first in theory and then shuffle them back into my deck, but I'm just not a fan of this card. There are uses for it, especially if I'm going to play something next turn that deals 2 damage to every creature. I want to get my creatures are going to die anyway, but it's rough. Now is one maybe the most powerful card in the game. Maybe the most powerful card in the game, and that's Key Charge. And the reason I say that is you have a Key Forge step. You have a Forge a Key step at the very beginning of your turn. It's the first thing you do. Afterwards, you don't get the chance to forge a key anymore. And that's how you win the game, is by forging your 3rd key. If you're the first player to forge 3 keys, you win. This is a way you can surprise your opponent, break the whole tactical advantage of timing and everything, and just say, I'm just going to go ahead and win now. I'm not going to give you the chance to respond. If you've got 2 keys, and I actually lost the game to this recently, if you've got 2 keys already, and my opponent's played something like I have to skip my Forge a Key step, or if I was close, if I had 6, and I'm down to 5 now, well, let me play something, put me above 6. So what Key Charge does is lets you lose an amber first, so it's negative, and if you do, you then may forge a key at the current cost. Current cost is always going to be 6 unless something is modifying it. And there are cards that are going to say, oh, well, your opponent has to pay 1 more to forge keys, or everybody gets to pay 1 less to forge keys. So those things can modify what the current cost is, but in general, it's going to be 6. So if I play this card, let's say I was able to gain a bunch of amber on my turn, and I'm up to 7 now. I can play this card, lose 1, brings me down to 6. Now I can forge a key at current cost in the middle of my turn. This is huge because this can allow your opponent might have had a perfect counter ready in their hand, ready for you to say, all right, I'm done. And then they play their stuff and try to stop you from winning the game. But this is the card that can just let you say, no, I'll just go ahead and win it now. Very powerful card, a card you need to watch out for. Key Charge, I'm calling it right here, the most powerful card in the game. And Ritual of Balance. Ritual of Balance is the only artifact we get for Untamed, and this is got the action. Again, artifacts are going to come into play tapped, so you'll have to wait your next turn to use its action. But if your opponent has 6 or more amber, you can steal 1. It's not necessarily the most powerful card out there, but what's nice about this is this breaks from the theory, from the mantra of Untamed. This one isn't all about growth. This one's about balancing things out. It feeds into the nature theme, but mechanically it's different. Now, this would be really strong in a deck that doesn't have as much stealing. So if I didn't already have shadows in this deck, this would be a much stronger card. But what it does in this deck is it means that if I need to stop you, but I don't want to activate shadows, maybe I don't have my shadows cards, or maybe I've only got 1 shadows creature out there, and I'm not going to gain much from activating shadows, this gives me an option to activate Untamed and maybe have a power turn and also stop you from forging a key. So it gives you some flexibility, but it doesn't have the best synergy with this deck. And this is just one of the things you get with a procedurally generated unique deck, is that you're going to have some really powerful synergies and combos, and then some that maybe aren't that great. This one can still work. They're just I have to have just the right situation to really use that. And I think that's one of the things I'm going to run into as I learn more about how to play this deck and how to best play this deck, because there's a difference between how to play and how to best play a deck. And that is it, guys. This is the Emperor of the Fallen Other We'll shuffle it all back together. This is one complete deck. I do recommend you sleeve your decks, and this has been a deck analysis. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you do like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out Crablock.com, and you can go in and hop in my Discord, and if you got any questions, ask them there. Hopefully we'll get an answer for you. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Also, check out my other videos, and make sure you're subscribed and click that little bell for alerts so you don't miss out on any new giveaways or any new cool stuff that is going on. I want to thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.